Fantastic. Great. Right, let me just check that level's right before I go on to this. Oh, great. Are we there? Fantastic. Well, bora da pawb. I need to turn that down just a little bit. Just a little bit. I might just hold it further away from my mouth. There we go. Hiya. So, for those of you who might not know me, I'm Alan. I'm married to Rachel, and we lead the team here at Capel Goleudy. And today is our Giving Sunday. So we've been going through the last 4 weeks throughout September, our regathering. So regather, retreat, reimagine, which was our vision talk last week that Rach led through. If you missed last week, do go back. So on YouTube, there's the recording of this gathering, as today is being recorded as well for people to catch up with, because we know at this time it can be difficult to get here each week. And then today it is about resource, which is our Giving Sunday talk. So I've got 3 elements for today to go through. We are going to start off with a biblical foundation of money. Then we're going to have a practical look at the financial resources of Lighthouse Church. And then there is a call for us as a community to be audacious in our generosity through sacrificial giving. Reese is going to wake up with my voice, 100%. So let's begin then with a biblical foundation. If every so often I just go, shh, it's just to get Reese back to sleep. So, the Bible has a huge amount to say on money. In fact, this is too distracting. Babies being carried who are asleep. Right, here we go. The Bible has a huge amount to say on money. In fact, 16 of the 38 parables that Jesus talked about were concerned with how to handle money and possessions. So that is 42% of the stories Jesus told as parables were to do with money and possessions. And in the Gospels, 1 out of 10 verses, so 288 in all, deal directly with the subject of money. The Bible offers 500 verses on prayer, less than 500 verses on faith, but more than 2,000, so over 4 times the amount than faith, of verses about money and possessions. It is a big topic. Can you imagine if we here at Lighthouse Church, 42% of our talks were just solely based on money and possessions? Like, I don't think many people would turn up very often or come back. But clearly, Jesus thought that it was a big issue. The writers of the Bible knew that for the condition of the human heart, for our human nature, since Adam and Eve, through the garden, throughout history, and still very prevalent today, we as a human race have always strived and been drawn towards money and possessions, and it has taken us away from our gods. Money, sex, power. 1, 2, or all 3 of these things can so easily become our idol, our gods. But if we are truly and passionately in pursuit of living a life for Jesus, if we really want to see the kingdom of heaven break out here on Anglesey, we each need to get our hearts right with a biblical view of our finances. And that demands an openness around our finance and money, which is not a cultural norm. But you guys are all part of Lighthouse Church, and you know that we do not skirt around these issues in society. We do not settle for mediocrity, but we pursue growth through a willingness to learn and be challenged, never allowing ourselves to think that we will just do as we are. We've kind of reached as far as we'll ever get on our journey, but actually we are always going to pursue growth and being more like Jesus. And money, whether we like it or not, has a pull on our hearts, on our desires, and on our time that can easily pull us away from a biblical view of our finance. So, a simple 3-step plan to a biblical view of finance. So I am basically going to try and fit all of those verses into 3 points in 5 minutes. So you're ready? You're going to come with me on this? This is quick. So first of all, everything is God's and we just steward it. The Bible is clear that the earth and everything in it is God's and we are just called to steward it well. From creation in Genesis 2 throughout history to today, when God's people approach everything as God's, that He is entrusted to us to steward well, then things blossom and are blessed abundantly. Yet when we take control, when we see things as ours, we box them off from God's, box them off from our discipleship journey, it will become a root cause of decay that will spread throughout our whole lives. So point 1, everything is God's and we are simply called to steward it. Number 2, you cannot serve God and money. So Matthew 6:24 says, no one can serve 2 masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Now this verse is not saying that money is evil, that we must completely forget about it and not engage with money at all, because that would go against point 1, that we are called to steward it. We are given money to steward well. It is not saying that we cannot deal or be around money. Feels a little bit like iRobot, that, doesn't it? Kind of, does anyone remember that? Like, this law cannot go against the first law. But anyway, so sidetrack, that's not in my notes. But what it is saying is, who is your master? Where do you make your decisions from? For example, how much time do you spend thinking about God? And how much time do you spend thinking about money or possessions? Does this balance reflect your priorities? Sir Francis Bacon once said, money is a great servant, but a bad master. Because you cannot serve both the master of God and money. One will be master in your life, and one will simply control you. So point 3, we are called to excel in giving. 2 Corinthians 8 verse 7 says, but since you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in the love we have kindled in you, see that you also excel in this grace of giving. Giving and generosity is as much a spiritual discipline, a catalyst for faith, as worship, prayer, or fasting. We are called to excel in all things, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, but also our approach to money and giving of our financial resources. So, 42% of Jesus' parables were about money. 1 in 10 verses in the Gospels are about money. It is weighty stuff. If we as individuals and a collective community of Jesus followers want to pursue Him more, to learn, to grow, and to see breakthrough in our lives and the lives of those around us, we must be willing to open up that area of our lives that is so easy to box off from God's, our money. And that is why the Bible talks about it so much. Because just think, we can appreciate how money can be important to different people. We can kind of see what is important to people through where they spend their money. So, people that buy more expensive ethical clothing shows someone is committed to a sustainable environment. It's good. An open home and a welcoming space at the dinner table can show that community and family is a core part of that person's life. A shelf full of books can show someone is an avid reader and loves imagination or the pursuit of learning. A rack of vinyl music is owned by someone who loves art and the beauty of sound. A posh coffee maker is owned by someone who appreciates the gift of good food and drink. Good things. Yet also, an expensive, flashy car can show someone's desire to be seen as successful. An overly large, pristine show home that is underutilized for family and community can become a fortress people hide in. A house full of expensive furniture and utilities bought on a whim with credit can highlight a person's lack of patience. A wardrobe overflowing with clothes that never get a good usage comes from someone striving for compliments in their appearance. Always needing the latest gadget or update on technology bought instantly on credit card can show someone desperate for identity in having the latest material goods. Now, this isn't to say that all of those things are bad and that we are not allowed nice things, that we are not allowed a nice car, a beautiful home. It doesn't mean that we have to wear rags or eat the cheapest food or enjoy the advances in technology. Of course we can, but Matthew 6, verse 21 said, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Or, as the Message paraphrase puts it, the place where your treasure is the place you most want to be and end up being. So where is your treasure? Where do you most want to be? Do they lead to the same end? Okay, so for a moment, I just want to kind of step to the side a little bit. I'm going to talk about our finances as a church. So on Giving Sunday, we basically explain what our budget is for the year ahead. We explain what our budget was last year, just to be really transparent with our finances. Like, you guys give so that this can happen and we can do things, and that the vision that is shared on Vision Sunday can be enabled. So I'm just going to share just a little bit. Hopefully you mostly have all received a letter in the post this week outlining our current financial position and our budget for the year ahead. Now, I know there were an issue with a lot of the postage labels, which means some people didn't get them because they were all smudged off. So if you haven't had this summary, come and chat to me or Rach, and we will make sure we get a copy emailed to you so that you can see it. Okay? But for a really quick summary, 2020-2021, so our financial year runs from the 1st of September. And so these are estimated numbers because we need to go through our whole auditing process with the trustees and make sure that everything's accounted for. But our total income last year was £43,884. The year before, it was about £39,900. So from this 43,000, 10,000 of that came from a Just So grant, so an evangelism grant. Another £4,500 of that came from other grants. So we don't know, to be honest, if these grants will be available again this year. It was quite cool yesterday, wasn't it, Rach? We went to Tesco, no fuel, by the way, just to note. We went to Tesco, and on the side was a little token you can put in for Lighthouse Church Anglesey Make Lunch project. Isn't that amazing? Like in Tesco Bangor, me and Rach just walked through and we're like, that's nuts. Like, that's our church. That everybody that walks through the busiest place in the world, Bangor Tesco, sees Lighthouse Church Anglesey, which is like amazing. But anyway, so there's some grant funding that we just don't know. And as a charity, we don't want to ever become reliant on grants. Grants that can serve us and our purpose are brilliant. The Just So funding, 10 grand for evangelism, amazing. But we also recognise that a lot of grants have restrictions in them, which mean that we end up serving the mission of the grant, not the mission of God's church and what He's called us for. So we will always look for grants, but we don't ever want to become in a place where we are reliant on it to meet our ends. So then total outgoing was £37,867, which the year before it was £19,439, so nearly double, which is a big increase. Because we acted on what we said we would last year by hiring an administrator, so Katie Love coming onto the staff team. A community coordinator, so giving a year contract to begin with to Kirsty to see things like Make Lunch, the Little Beacons, the Eat and Grow project, all of these things begin to flourish. We increased Rachel's hours to lead church and the team more effectively, honouring the time and gifting she puts into it. Over the last year, there was a little bit of saving as well on our expected budget because we haven't met physically every week, so we've had lower costs. They will increase from now that we're meeting every week. We haven't had refreshments and things like that. But yeah, anyway, overall, it meant that our balance last year was around £6,000 in the positive. Plus, we had £33,000. Rach, could you do me a quick favour? Could you just go and ask them to just try and not shout? Is that all right? Sorry, if we're going to have them in, then we need to... Yeah, great. Because I can't hear myself. I don't know if you guys can hear me. The overall balance, so the estimated total rollover into next year, so cash in the bank from the 1st of September was around £39,000. Note, as an organisation, we have to hold £7,000 for employment security, so to make sure that we can pay our employees. If it all goes belly up, we end up with no money, we need to have at least £7,000 to pay our poor staff members for another 3 months before we ship them off. One of those being my wife. So we've got to be careful. But no. So then our planned budget for 2021-22, so we are already, 26 days into this. As was shared in Reimagine, our Vision Sunday. If you missed it, do catch up on YouTube. There are loads of exciting initiatives, discipleship opportunities, and community events planned for the year ahead. We will continue to develop our staff team, releasing gifting and passion to serve church and the wider community. We're just moving into some office space, a room in Capel Goleudy, to be able to just allow the team to meet and have a central place for all of our things. There are outreach events and activities to meet, serve, and love people of all different backgrounds and faith journeys. Through Make Lunch, Little Beacons, Parents and Tots groups, the Christmas Schools Adventure. We want to do the adventure again this year. Not in tubes and maybe not 2,000 this year though, but we'll see. And a summer community event and much, much more. So our budget for the year ahead, so we have an expected income of around £29,800. So that is like based on standing orders and current giving. If it didn't change, that is what we would expect. Our planned expenditure, though, is £37,400. So, as you can see, we have a faith gap this year of £7,600 in our finances. And our hope is to grow into this budget over the year, starting from today. And as a community, we can meet this faith gap by reconsidering our financial contribution to Lighthouse Church for the year ahead. Now, a key thing for me to say is that actually, Rach, I don't know if you noticed, but she's pregnant, and Rach will be going on maternity leave. If you didn't notice, then I want to ask a question about what you think my wife's been eating recently. But no, Rach is pregnant. She is going to be going on maternity leave from February, just a bit before, for the rest of the financial year. So actually, if Rach wasn't pregnant, our faith gap this year would be, or more to the point, this time next year, if our giving doesn't increase, we will have a faith gap next year of around £14,300, which is a big ask for us to grow into. But we are confident that the finance will be released to see our community fully resourced and more over the coming months and years. Because my vision and dream is that this faith gap in 2 years' time is just seen like a little drop in the pond of God's amazing blessing for our community. That we don't just want to stay here, we don't just want to grow into kind of like, oh, that's probably our capacity now, and that's it. But we want to keep on growing. Like, can you picture it with me going forwards, that as more finance above and beyond the £14,000 over the next 2 years is released, that we could see other things developing. Like, can you imagine a community hub in the center of the island that could welcome people into a faith-filled space to gain freedom from life-controlling addictions and behaviors, with services like CAP debt centers, a counseling service, a coffee shop that gets people to come in and just be known and welcomed, a youth initiative that can reach out and bring hope and life back into people. There are so many things that we may see one day, God willing. But for now, as I read earlier in 2 Corinthians 8 verse 7, will we pursue individually and collectively as a community to excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in the love kindled in you? And will we also see us excel in this gracious gift of giving? So to put our faith gap this year, like this year, £7,600 into context, if each household in our community either began or increased their giving by £40 a month, so just under £10 per week. So for some people, that is £5 per person per week if there's 2 adults in their household. Then we would see an additional £10,000 this year released, smashing our faith gap. Now recognize that some people have 1 adult in a household, some more, some have less available than £10 per week, and so £10 a week would seem massive to be able to give. Others, though, may have a household of 2 adults or more, and £10 a week is just spare change. It's simply cutting out a coffee and a piece of cake to share each week to sow into Lighthouse Church. Those with less, do not devalue your contribution. I will very, very quickly point you to the widow's mite, a parable of Jesus highlighting, although the widow only gave what others thought was a minuscule amount, not worth anything, it was all she had, and it was given with a love for God. That meant Jesus noticed, and he said, look, that is how we should give. Those with more, maybe you are called to sacrificial giving that goes beyond your comfort zone. And God is calling you into greater trust in him in all areas of your life. Like maybe not, but I dare you to ask him. And then children, I've been challenged this week. As I've been writing this and thinking on this, I've been challenged about what are we teaching our children about money and giving. Maybe you can view your household not just as adults, but with all of your children too. Maybe this is an opportunity to not just display sacrificial giving to them, kind of like, look, this is what we are doing, but actually to bring them along on the journey through a conversation about what maybe they could give up for a season to release the finance to be able to give more. Or maybe offer them money each week to be like, look, it's up to you. You can buy sweets, or actually, how can we teach them about what they could sow their money into that goes beyond their physical need right now? Like, if I'm honest, I don't know. Like, we don't do that with our boys. We still need to work that out. Caleb is just understanding that he has money and it goes, and he was very cute yesterday. He wanted to buy him and his brother ice cream with his pennies, which is lovely. But what can we do with our children? I don't know. But I think there is something we should be modeling and teaching our children now that will stand them in good stead going forwards. And on a side point, I always find it really interesting that, well, to be honest, sad, when I'm speaking to teenagers, for many, they, like our youth, are great, but so much of the past when I've spoken to teenagers around what would you want to become when you're older, and so many will say, oh, I want to be an influencer, a YouTube star, famous, rich. Like, they often have good motives. They want to, kind of like, well, I want to be rich so I can help support my family, or I want to be able to do these things. But I think it just highlights that what is so ingrained in our society today is a desire to always have just that little bit more. To just have that little bit more than what we need for security, just because actually just a little bit more than security is actually security. There is a negative view of being content with just having enough, and it is maybe even downright wrong to push yourself to a place where maybe it is a bit uncomfortable or challenging, even if it releases something else for someone else. And how do we counter this culturally ingrained view in our pursuit of what Jesus tells us is best for us? How do we pursue living a life full in all areas of our life? So our ask today is, can we collectively together see the resources released within our community to match and even exceed our faith gap for this year? Now, I recognize people give to other places too, other charities, etc., and that is great. I am definitely not saying stop giving to other places. Church itself, from what it receives, gives out. Like, it's a really good mindset for our organization, our organizational budget, to have that mindset of what we receive, we also give out. So we have a portion that goes to a local charity, so we give to Gobaith Morn. We have a portion that goes out to a Wales-wide charity, so New Wine Cymru, we support them. We have one that goes to a UK-wide, so the Pioneer Network that we're relationally connected with, we give to them. And then also an international point of view where we give to Tear Fund regularly as a church. So the money we get in from you guys also goes out to support these other charities. And Rachel and I personally go beyond the traditional tithe to other organisations close to our heart, to Care for the Family, to wherever else, CAP, and so on. It is important for us to support them too. This is not just an ask of, okay, stop all of the giving, it needs to come to church. That is not what I'm saying. And I know some people have a difference of opinion on what the traditional tithe is. So, the sort of 10% guideline. Either the figure of 10% or kind of should 10% go to church and then you give above and beyond elsewhere. That basically, I'm just not going to say anything. 10% is just simply a guideline. Do not let that become an obstacle to your giving. It is about where your heart is at and what God is calling you to in this moment. But my ask today is this: will you consider investing locally? Sowing into seeing the kingdom advance here on Anglesey too. Like, you guys are all here and all watching at home as well, are a massive blessing to Lighthouse Church as a community with commitment of your time, your passions, your gifting. But we also want to see a financial provision released that enables more gifting to be released, more opportunities to be resourced properly to impact lives both within and outside of our community. And we can do that together. Because I truly, truly believe in two things. Don't worry, I'm coming to a close now. Two things. One, when we step out in giving financially, whatever the size, it releases a hold money can so easily have on our lives, whether we know it or not. As we move, give, and press into God, He moves with us in abundance of provision. We see a shift in our mindset, a refreshing of our souls. We put God as master of our lives and store treasure in heaven, not in material or worldly goods. It does a deep work in us and through us. And then two, I wholeheartedly believe in this community. In Lighthouse Church, in Capel Goleudy. I believe we together can make a lasting, positive difference to this island and to each other. I believe God has bestowed on us amazing gifts, skills, and passions, and will continue to add to our number and our influence to bring breakthrough and life to others. I believe we are a growing community that will make disciples who make disciples, that we will go, share Jesus, and advance the kingdom of heaven here on Anglesey. So, Capel Goleudy, we can do this together. We can see this come to fruition, see things fully resourced and released, while growing in our own relentless pursuit of Jesus. And so we're going to just take a moment now to worship through music, to worship through prayer, but also to have an opportunity to worship through a gracious gift of giving. And so there's two ways today, really. There's on the screen, there's that's our website, so lighthousechurchanglesey.org/giving. You can log on to that and give through that, so either setting up a one-off gift or a standing order. If you're watching online, I will post the link in the description of this video as well, so you can just click on the link to our website where then you can give. But also, I will walk around with this basket, or I'll send someone around with a basket. There's just some pieces of paper and some pens in there. We don't have the old forms that we used to have, but basically, it's an opportunity for you to write an IOU. Because having that opportunity now just maybe set something in us. It will be so easy to feel challenged and to feel that kind of like, I feel as though God's telling me something today. But then leave and think about it a bit more and think, oh, okay, so I need to log on online and I need to get this sorted and so on, and to just let that moment pass. So writing an IOU means that you're accountable to me. Or more importantly, I will then send you an email later in the week just to say, hey, like, thank you for this. Just a reminder, here's the link. Really encourage you to do it. Or, of course, money or whatever else into the basket is also fine. So, can I ask us all to stand to our feet? I will pray, and then we will respond. So I'll give a little time at first. I'll just put some more backing music on at the start for you to just have an opportunity to seek God. Maybe you need to speak to an interested other, like your partner, just to say to them, like, this is what I'm thinking, because you might find that you're on completely different wavelengths. And you might just actually need some time to chat it through. Maybe you want to have an opportunity to chat to your kids. And then I encourage you to go to the website or grab something from the basket and write an IOU or whatever it looks like. And then we will sing a song together. We will worship through music as well as our giving response. For those of you that already give and you know kind of like it's not as simple as just logging on online to change your standing order, that is equally fine. I just really want to encourage you. Maybe you want to take one of those slips of paper and just put it in your pocket so that you find something later to take back out and go, oh yeah, I need to act on this. Okay. We're up for this. So let me pray. Father God, I thank you for today. I thank you that you are so concerned with all of our life. Our faith, our knowledge, our speech, but also, God, the way that we approach stewarding what is ultimately yours, Jesus. Stewarding your financial resource, the possessions that we have, the time we have. And God, I just now pray that you speak to each of us individually. You speak to us as households, just with just an opportunity for us to come and say, God, I want to pursue you relentlessly throughout my life. And if that means that something needs to shift in my personal finance, then God, I am open to that. Speak to me, tell me. And Father God, whatever comes, we just pray that you will bless it abundantly for this community, that we will see a wave of your kingdom spread across this island, that activities and things will be fully resourced. That means that we can just meet people's felt need across our community, that we can reach them with your love, God. Father God, bless this community. Bless all of the giftings and passions and skills and time and money that is sown into this community, into each other, and to those around us, God. Father God, in your name we pray. Amen.